This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Hey, Carm Capriato here, the Automotive Aftermarket Podcast Guy, and welcome to the 638th episode of Remarkable Results Radio. And don't forget, we've got episodes in our other show venues too. The Town Hall Academy, Aftermarket Weekly, Carmcasts, and For the Record. Check them out. Hey, looking for any special information? Well, search any topic that's on your mind right on my website, remarkableresults.biz, and enjoy listening and learning. Hey, if you love new technology, you're in for a treat. Chris Cloutier discusses the rapid changes in technology and what that means for our industry. Now, if you're not a fan of new tech, then consider this your opportunity to learn a slice of the future. Get on board before it steamrolls you. New technology is going to happen no matter what. It's just a question of accepting it and adapting it to your world. This episode is possible through our great sponsors, Apex and Shopware. Hey, imagine being able to see new product, tools, equipment, demos in a simulated real-world shop environment, complete with 8 service bays, lifts, vehicles, and a service counter area. Well, that's Joe's Garage, and it's set to launch at Apex 2021, November 2nd through the 4th in Las Vegas. It's going to be a homecoming. I hope to see you there. My studio will be smack dab in the middle of Joe's Garage. Visit aapexshow.com for all the details. Hey, I got a question for you. What do WorldPack, Mitchell 1, Kukui, and QuickBooks have in common? Well, they work with Shopware, connecting the aftermarket together. Now, Shopware's all-in-one platform maximizes shop efficiency, and they deliver customer satisfaction without compromise. Get the shop management software trusted across our industry on the web at getshopware.com. Hey, the key talking points for this episode reside at remarkableresults.biz/E638. That's the show page. Hey, don't forget to follow me on social media to stay up to date with all of our live broadcasts. Hey, a warm welcome to Chris Cloutier. Did I say that right?
You did, Carm.
I have known you for years now, and I've always said every time I'm getting together with Chris, I'm going to actually pronounce his French name the right way.
You've got it. Cloutier.
Cloutier. Golden Rule Auto Care, Dallas, Texas, and the CEO of Autotex.me. Hey, how you doing, bud?
Man, I'm doing good, Carm. Staying busy, which is good for guys like me and you.
Yeah, I know. People come up to me and says, are you ever going to retire? And I go, no, you could if you wanted to. And I said, yes, but what would I do with myself? Oh, I've got 7.5 acres of woods and I can go cut and, I could do stuff, but the brain wouldn't be working as hard as I wanted to work. So Chris and I chatted 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he says, it's time for him and I to just get on and do a little talk tech. We've done geek talks in the past with some of our great friends in the industry, but this one was just me and Chris. He's got some burning, passionate things he'd like to speak to, and I love him, by the way. And let's just start 3D printing, OMG. I can imagine one day that if I need a part for my classic 36 Chevy or whatever, Ford 52 something, I'm going to go download a thing, go to my 3D printer, and presto, I now have a new cover, dashboard, handle, something.
I agree. So, and thank you, Carm, for us having this discussion, because I always like these discussions where we can kind of just blue sky things and talk about the future and what may or may not happen. Neither one of us have a crystal ball. Well, we do, but they're typically broke. Mine's broke. But 3D printing, if you've just watched it over the years and the incredible things that you can print now, it's becoming increasingly obvious that 3D printing will change the way that we do business and the way shops will do business and the way parts will be delivered. I sent you an article that talked about 7 things that are being done in the industry right now with 3D printing. And it sparked my interest because Ford started saying, hey, we're going to start printing our own parts. And then you saw that one of the companies was now starting to customize. I think it was Volkswagen. They're going to start customizing like handles for their vehicles. So customers can print a custom handle. That's amazing. Now, we don't have the printers yet, but how long before the parts store has the printer? Or there's these shops that start popping up with printers that say, hey, what do you need? Give us the blueprint and we'll print it for you. And it's going to cost a fraction.
You're going to go out and invest thousands of dollars in a printer that could even print carbon, plastic. I think even some kind of, I read the laser melts the metal and whatever it does. And you're right, the Shelby GT500 from Ford, they're doing 3D printing. I also read in that article, Chris, about BMW Mini, you'll be able to customize how you want certain things to look in the vehicle, and they're just going to print them. They're going to do 3D printing for you.
I know at my shops, we've been struggling to get parts. And a lot of times we'll struggle to get parts on older cars. So that's frustrating when you can't go to a junkyard, you can't find that part that you need. What do? You're kind of stuck, and your customers, they're going to say, well, we're just going to let this car go. We're just, don't worry about it. We're going to throw it in the junkyard, especially if the customer has some sort of sentimental value to it. They're going to want this car fixed. So, is there going to be an ability for us to go then print these small plastic pieces we can't find anymore, or the metal pieces? Because like you said, man, they can print anything now. It's amazing. They print houses now. In that article, they're talking about printing cars that run, printing motorcycles that run.
These autonomous electric cars, you take whatever the platform is, you could just basically 3D print the top part that you're going to sit in, the style, the look, the feel. And you say, oh my God, here are 7 different versions of this vehicle.
And we love customization in this world, right? We like to have things that are ours. And it's funny, we buy a car and we think we're the only one that owns it. And when you buy the car, you realize, golly, every other car looks just like mine. I didn't realize I'm now driving with 12 other people that have the same.
It's a phenomenon we should stop for 1 minute and speak to. You buy a car that you've always had your eye on, and then you're down the road feeling pretty damn bad and mean, and new car smell. It's just the greatest thing. And now you start looking up and everybody's got one.
Yes. So customization, right? You can do it with T-shirts. You can print, whatever you want on a T-shirt now. You can make your clothes. I think it'd be just a fantastic thing to be able to print a car and say, hey, this is I'm going to put my own flair on the design. And these type of possibilities are coming. I've seen guys print chessboards. I have a guy who's part of this group called Makerspace. And Carm, all this is it's a big toy box. And I think they're in several different cities. It's a big toy box for adults to go learn a new hobby or develop something new or go. And so the instructors will become students and students become instructors. And one guy might go, hey, I know 3D printing, so I'm going to teach a class on 3D printing. And they go out and they buy these $100,000 printers because everybody's contributing money to it. And they have access to do all this cool stuff. And this guy has printed amazing things on these printers and this access to this information.
I liken it to woodworking. I know some guys that have a shop that, is as good as this old house. What was it? Norm Abrams, right? And can you imagine taking on a hobby called 3D printing and having all these cool devices, and you spend a ton of money on it, and the world comes to you and says, hey, could you build me a cabinet? Could you build me this? It's not wood, and it's not left to a set of blueprints. It's left to the imagination as to what you could invest in to make things with. I bet you could make a swing set for a grandchild one day on your 3D printer.
Absolutely. And the reason why, once again, I like to bring this up as something that we should be aware of the industry is because, once again, you look at parts and you look at deliverabilities and you look at supply chain and COVID disrupted all this. So as this technology gets better, as parts for older cars get less and less, as things get more right? We want speed of delivery. And we can't wait, and our customers want speed of delivery. So once again, this is going to change the way we do business. Now, think about blockchain. Carm, maybe we talked about blockchain 4 or 5 years ago. People were talking about it, and it's the new thing. Well, hold on. I buy cryptocurrency. I'm sure you buy cryptocurrency. I'm sure most of your audience now is purchasing cryptocurrency, which is all built on blockchain technology. So this is real world application. So I think it's a lot closer, once again, when the manufacturers like Ford start saying, hey, we're actually printing our own parts. And Porsche came out and said, hey, we're going to start printing replacement parts. And there was a good article in Ratchet Wrench, and I didn't pull up in front before this, but I should have. And it was about a company that was buying the blueprints for making parts. And this was a couple years ago. And I thought, man, that's genius. So if they can hang around long enough, then they can get past the curve of the adoption of technology. And that, as the printers get cheaper, that's going to be the company we're going to go into to get our parts.
I've been big on the show in the last, say, year and a half talking about proof of concept. And, COVID hit, and the shops that were doing all the things that were trending, that were cutting edge, that were scoped for tomorrow, pulled up, got out, ahead of the curve, 60 miles an hour as COVID opened itself up. And every time I talk to somebody who says, how's business? And this is, oh, God, it's unbelievable. I had a couple of bad months at the beginning of the year, but we're on fire. And I always say it's proof of concept. So, for 2021, I started to talk about apprenticing, succession, electric vehicles, youth movement, pre-scheduling, training, digital intimacy, DVI, and now we have to actually add 3D printing. Don't put up your hand when OBD2 came out and said, oh, this is junk, this is crap, or all the technology on the vehicle. Stop, read about it, embrace it, and never say never.
Correct. And that's the awareness, top of mind awareness. We're always looking for the next thing, the adoption of the next thing. We have a lot of early adopters in this industry. And I think that getting that word out to say, hey, here's some things on the horizon that you need to be paying attention to. And I agree, Carm, 3D printing on the horizon.
Thanks for this, buddy. Every once in a while, I go over to my Google Nest little assistant and I say, hey, Google, play Remarkable Results Radio podcast. And she picks right up where I was, voice technology and all these devices. I set my alarm this morning for 5 o'clock. I had a meeting to go to. She woke me up. Voice technology, unbelievable.
Carm, I worked for a charity for a long time, and this is years ago. And what I would do was it was a halfway house for people who were on the streets who were rehabilitating back into society. And I'm a computer guy. I've always been one. I've built computers. I could teach people, train people on computers. So me and my brother started this class where they would come in, and we would teach them how to use a mouse and how to use a keyboard, how to do the resume. Maybe we might teach them how to do an HTML page if they're a little more advanced. We would teach them some technical skills. And Carm, I can't tell you how amazed I was at trying to watch a 40-year-old person use a mouse and how difficult this task was for this person, because I'm thinking, how is it hard to use a mouse? Of course, I've been using a mouse for 30 years. I'm an expert, but when you put a mouse in front of somebody who's never used one, it's very difficult. What about our QWERTY keyboard? There's a lot of history. Who came up with it? Why? I mean, it makes no sense. But thank God, if you've been typing for the last 20 years and you actually know how to type or hunt and peck, you're probably a fast hunt and pecker. But it's not natural to learn how to type. It takes a long time to learn how to type and type quickly and fast. So I've been watching, and any computer geek has been watching voice technologies for a long time. It was really bad. And even 10, 15 years ago when you would talk to your phone, remember how bad the translation was? And every other word was incorrect and you'd have to fix it. And you're like, oh, crap, I don't even want to use the voice to text. Now, like you said, our kids are having conversations with Google. They're having it with Alexa. They're having it with their phones. They're not going on the keyboard and typing anymore. They're just having a conversation, and it's a natural conversation.
I got to stop you just for 1 minute. It just brings up this thought that I had about this past weekend. Grandson came out. We played in the woods. We had a bonfire. He was driving his little trike, picking up sticks, and putting it in the back. We had a blast. So we came in near dinner time, and he wanted to watch a movie on, I think it was Disney, and his dad comes over with his phone, Chromecasted to my TV. He's sitting in my lap, Chris. I'm watching he's going to be 3 in a few months. I watched this kid stop it, move it ahead to the spot he wanted to see because it was, and then he hit it. I'm sitting there amazed. I'm sitting there realizing that as a 3-year-old with this piece of technology in his hand, that he knows exactly how it works.
My daughters are the same way, Carm. I'm a computer guy. I have been building computers my whole life. My brother bought an IBM clone when we were super young, so I was coding way back when. So I pride myself. And every once in a while, my older daughter, who's 11, will snatch the device out of my hand and she will fix or correct or show me what I'm doing wrong. And so for a guy who's been in this business pretty much his whole life, for his daughter to correct, because a lot of the stuff is intuitive, and that's what you're getting to, intuitive UI, user interface, right? Xerox was the one who actually created kind of the personal computer way back when. They created, this whole idea of this UI and icons, iconic, it was amazing. And we've been able to take that a long way. Now this whole point and swipe and talk, that's the new interface. I don't need to type anymore. And we hear about this with digital inspections too, Carm. The argument of, I can fill out a piece of paper faster than I can do a digital inspection. Well, I'm going to argue if actually your technician's doing voice to text, I believe actually he can talk faster than he can write. Isn't that an incredible shift in habit, or shift in, I'm so comfortable typing, I'm so comfortable writing, and it's uncomfortable. And maybe we need classes in getting uncomfortable. Change, Carm. It's the same change we talk about all the time, that uncomfortable change, because we're like, but I know how to type 80 words a minute, right? I'm not going to lose that skill that was pretty much useless to begin with, but hey, it got us through the segment of time we needed to get through. I'm there too, Carm. Did you remember how to type on the QWERTY keyboard? Do you have any memories of how you learned? Absolutely. I was in, I believe, 5th or 6th grade, and I had a typewriter class, and they started saying, hey, this typewriter, and it was a typewriter. It wasn't a computer, but they said, you need to learn. And my parents were like, you need to learn, Chris. And luckily they did. My dad was an engineer. Actually, he was, I think we've talked about this before, he actually worked for NASA. So he was a NASA engineer. So my dad, you can call him a rocket scientist. He understood the value of what computers were back then and what they were going to be. So I think my parents kind of helped push us all into understanding some of the technology and early adoptions with it. So I do remember those classes. Yes. I was a senior, and they were only giving seniors a chance to learn typing back when I was in. And I remember there were only 2 guys in the typing class in my senior year. There were only 2 IBM Selectric typewriters in the class. Who do you think got them? The 2 guys. Never forget. It's a cool story. And yeah, and I'm getting to the point where if I'm not getting my hands on, I can type really well, as long as when I first start, I'm remembering where the hands go lately. It's been crazy. It's been crazy. But with your voice, right, you don't have to learn this. You can naturally speak to Alexa. Alexa knows what you're saying. Alexa can have a conversation with you. There's all the things called Alexa skills. So you can actually make your Alexa super smart. You can go look it up. And Alexa can do a lot more than what it is out of the box. One of the questions I started asking shop owners a long time ago, right, was your kids are talking to Alexa. Now we're talking to Alexa, but do you understand the capabilities of Alexa? So I always ask, hey, how many times a week or a month do you ask Alexa, who's the best auto repair shop in Wiley, Texas? Who's the best auto repair shop in your local area? Because people are asking the same thing. And if your name's not in the result, then you need to start working with whoever you're working with to get your name in those results and start figuring out how you're getting in the voice results, because people are asking those questions. And then I loved it. It was a parts company, and you've got a lot to work with. I'll just throw out their names. Parts Tech, I believe, was the one who did a video, and it was the guy sitting under the car. It was very cool a couple years ago. And the guy's like, Parts Tech, I'm looking up for a part for this. And the guy ends up ordering parts through this voice interactive technology. That's going to come, right? It's going to be there where somebody builds the Alexa skills or the Google skills to where parts people are going to figure it out. They're going to go, wow, we need to be here. So instead of our part, the guy having to call the phone, the guy just says, hey, look up a part. I need to know who has this part and where it's at. And then boom, it goes and looks at the network and comes back with the results it needs to and says, hey, it's at O'Reilly's and it's on the shelf right now and we can get it to you in 30 minutes without any phone calls. That's true efficiency. I love it. How do we get over that hurdle, Chris? I know that when I want to text someone back, Chris says, hey, we're okay today at 2:00. And of course I would type, how... Is there a way that we can take not a non-believer, but a non-conformist, if you will, into wanting to use voice to text and say, hey, why don't you start replying, just discipline, force yourself to answer texts through voice? Would that be a good place? I think it'd be a good place. One of the things I like to do, Carm, and I've heard this suggestion for other people, and I love it. You have shop owners that are very smart on here. I've done it. I did it with hybrids. So my guys are like, I don't want to work on hybrids. And I said, all right, well, I'm going to buy a hybrid. So I bought a hybrid as a company car, and guess what? My guys know how to do hybrids. So I've suggested in the past that you get an Alexa, and if you don't like Alexa in your house because you're worried about the NSA listening, which yes, they are, but they're also listening on your phone, go get one for your shop. Put it at the shop counter. And get your guys to at least use it for music, because Alexa can, go buy Spotify, and Alexa can play music for your shop. Alexa can, hey, Alexa, tell a joke when a kid's in the showroom, right? Get your people at your counter starting to use Alexa, and yourself to start using Alexa in your operation. That's what I would do. Now, one shop, we use it. The other shop, the guys are like, no, NSA's listening. So I have to go plug it in and be like, come on, guys. I mean, you got to get used to it. But understand, it's change. Eventually, it's the way it's going to be. So I like just applying it, right? Get an Alexa in your house or get into your business and start using it and force yourself to use it.
Hey, Carm here. And coming up, Chris discusses a cool new product that shows real-time Bay statistics. Hey, did you know that Apex 2021 is designating a new area called Repair Shop HQ with you in mind? That's right. This one-stop destination is being designed to meet the product, equipment, and training needs of today's shop owners, managers, and technicians. As part of this edition, Joe's Garage, a simulated real-world shop environment with 8 bays, lifts, vehicles, and a service counter area will feature the latest product and equipment demos. A new dedicated tire section, 3 training theaters, and a diagnostics and telematics area also will be part of Repair Shop HQ. And there's still more. The popular tool and equipment section and the mobile heat transfer heating air conditioning section will relocate to this new area. This immersive environment located on level 1 of the Sands Expo will be ready and waiting for you November 2nd through the 4th in Las Vegas. Now, I hope to see you there. Visit aapexshow.com for details. Are you stuck in small ticket rut? Well, that's exactly what happened to Dominic Linden and the team at Autobahn Service in Sheffield, Massachusetts. With the busy day-to-day bustle of shop operations, they didn't have time to chase customers for approval. They were caught in a cycle of low AROs, and they were losing those higher ticket jobs to competitors. Autobahn Service was introduced to Shopware, and just a few months after going live, the shop was so busy with new jobs that they actually needed to lower their car count. They are now able to be selective with the services they take on, and profits have never been better. Additionally, by tapping into Shopware's digital estimating capabilities, Autobahn Service has noticed an 89% average approval rate from customers. Their average RO before Shopware was $450, and now it's up to $700. Now that's a 55% increase. Do the math. Reach your customers faster and get approved dollars up. GetShopware.com. Okay, so I'm in Google search and I'm typing something, and all of a sudden it almost knows exactly what I'm going to say next, and it puts it up in front of me. I was smart enough to realize if I hit tab, I believe it would complete the sentence. And then I started to think, how does it know that stuff?
And that's all AI and machine learning. All this stuff is tied together. And I know a lot of these terms are thrown around, and people are like, AI, ML, what the hell? Yeah, and ML, machine learning. And they're kind of hand in hand. And the reason is because, your machines are learning now, right? They're becoming smarter. As computer scientists, and I graduated with a computer science degree, and I've watched this for a long time. A lot of times we make computers smarter by programs, and it's a lot of logic. It's if this, then that. While this, do that. It's pretty succinct and procedural, and then you got into objects and how objects interact together. This really gets to a level of consciousness that we've never been at, right? And that's actually this black box, this idea that there's some intelligence built into this black box that multiple people have put input into. Computer scientists have put input into it. Your data analysts have put input into it. Your industry people, and it kind of creates this brain of intelligence. And it's based off of what you'll hear a lot now is models, data models. And this has to do with big data. I'm going to kind of throw this into the whole thing. Like, your data is important. Why is your data important? Because now that they can create these models when you can create pure models or models that really come out with good results, you need the data to feed it. And you need lots of data to feed to train this model to understand. So for instance, you Google completing your sentence. People are going to type things and it's based off of the probability of what you're typing and what everybody else has been typing. Google goes, oh, there's a high probability that he is going to type this. Now, if you get a bunch of jackholes, which you will, typing, the wrong thing purposely, they can damage your model, and people try and damage Google all the time. It happens, right? This is why Google makes updates all the time. Actually, they're updating their models and they're making sure their models are clean and they're making sure the results or whatever it's going to complete your sentence is actually good. And it's not like, hey, I'm looking for poop. Because if you get a million people saying, hey, we're going to go mess up this model, instead of I'm looking for the latest news today, I'm looking for poop, and people just go in and continue to type this in because maybe everybody else is looking for poop for the day. So then it trains the model to say, hey, everybody's looking for poop. So next time Carm starts saying, I am looking for, it fills in that thing, right? So you need data, lots of data, and you need good data. So your data is important because these big companies have this ability to take this data and put it and model this data and put it through this cleansing to where they can then use it for their benefit. Your assistants, Google Assistants and stuff like that, your automated chat bots, they need to know good responses versus bad responses, and this is how they build their brain.
If someone says, I need a set of tires, doesn't the software need to know what to ask next? The only intelligence it has is because we input it. Am I right?
Correct. But then it knows when that car came in. So tire companies, there was a couple companies that were going in and buying, a lot of data from auto repair shop, or they weren't buying it. The auto repair shops were just giving it. And they were giving this company their information on the tires that were selling. Well, they can make correlations, right? So they can then, and this was, they were saying under the guise of distribution, which is true, but then they can start figuring out what lines are selling. And then what they're doing is going and selling it to the online companies, the tire companies that are in fulfillment, and they're saying, hey, by the way, these are the tires that are selling here. So whenever somebody goes and looks online and says, hey, I need a pair of people, whatever, tire rack comes up, and they know exactly what you need, and they have it in stock, and they're so they kind of beat you with your own data, and they get to the customer that much quicker. So they can use their data against you, right? They, typically know what your make model, your, vehicles, your tires are going for the vehicles. And models help just train the brain to make it smart. So if you want to be a good business owner, you go read a lot of books. Well, that creates a model of what it means to be a good business owner in your head. You got to be a good leader. You got to be a good marketer. You got to do all these things, right? And so therefore, when Carm says, hey, Chris, what does it take to discipline your people? And I say, well, you got to hold them accountable. You got to give them goals. You got to do this. That's a model that's been built in my mind, right? But I can give you the answer because I have the preconceived understanding of what it means.
The model, I was really having a tough time getting my head around the model until you said it's a model of leadership. It's a model of this. And what you're basically saying is that artificial intelligence will have these models so that it can get into the pew faster and give you back input?
Give you what you need better and faster than what you currently get.
I'm doing input, I'm looking for output. Okay.
Good one is driverless cars, right? What is it? What is a dog? What is a dog? You build models on what a dog looks like, or what is a bicycle? What does a bicycle look like? So you feed it millions of images of bicycles, because all bicycles are not created the same. They have two wheels, but they have different shapes, sizes, colors, everything. Dogs, different shapes, sizes, colors, everything. Dogs kind of look like cats, but there's a difference in the way that they're faced. There's different. So these models you have to feed a lot of data. So then you say, hey, I'm looking for this kind of dog, right? A dog that has this kind of face. I don't know. That's probably a bad example because I don't know how many people are going online and looking for particular dogs, but they could be. I've seen this used in some of the conferences that we've gone to that are AI, machine learning, big data conferences. And like when you go on to, and I forget which distributor it was, but they know when you put in certain keywords like white cabinet, well, they don't have to go off the keyword of, okay, whatever people put in, and they said white cabinet. So I have this brown cabinet, but you know what? I'm going to describe it as a white cabinet. So when the person comes back with the results, well, brown cabinet shows up and the person gets frustrated and said, well, no, I said a white cabinet. So the model, if you feed it a bunch of images of white cabinets, it sees the brown cabinet, even though it's called a white cabinet, and says, no. I'm not going to show this as part of the results. I know I'm smart, right? I understand the difference between a white cabinet and a brown cabinet. Because a lot of times what we had to do was trust the metadata or the description of the data. But AI is now allowing us to actually look at a picture and know what the picture means.
So instead of being lazy, it's being more specific.
Yes. Yes, you could say that.
I'm looking for a white cabinet. They show me a brown cabinet. That's being lazy. I mean, do the extra step and read the word white and
But it's very hard, right, to feed a photo to a machine and a machine say, oh, I know. It's something we do every day. But to train an engine to be able to use a model effectively, an AI engine or machine learning engine, it takes a lot of data. For instance, license plate readers. Yeah, we see license plates all the time, but you have to feed it a lot of information for it to be able to understand that this license plate's rectangle and realize there's different emblems on a license plate and the letters are, they're a little bit different. They could be blue, they could be black, they could be red, they could be 6 letters, they could be 3 letters, they could be 8 letters. So there's a lot of distinction between a license plate, but license plates are typically on a car. So, a license plate comes on a car. So there's a lot actually that goes into building and training these things. And so it's good that you're seeing that. And because most people are like, well, we're not using it. Well, there's some systems out there that are trying to take advantage of it, right? Which is good. And you'll see more and more of this as we go along. But your Gmail is where you'll see it. Your Google searches is where you'll see it already. And that is AI, that's machine learning behind it completing your sentences. Because it says, hey, Chris always says hello, or he says, hey, Carm. So automatically, I put Carm's email address in, it pops up that grant and says, hey, Carm.
I noticed Gmail is helping me complete my sentences or start my sentences. Let's go back to this dog thing. In autonomous vehicles today and all the software that's in the car, and hopefully you know the answer to this, is every shape of every dog, of every bicycle, of every cat, of every situation going to be stored inside the vehicle?
No.
And that's why we need 5G networks, and that's why there's this whole connectivity thing, is that all of that's going to be coming from the outside or on the fringe or the edge of the internet?
Yes, I think eventually, Carm, we'll be able to put everything on a pinhead. You'll be able to put the world on a pinhead, but we're not there yet, right? I mean, they're talking about quantum, computing, and that's actually changing molecular structure for your on and off bits, and it's still very unstable, although you read some breakthrough here or there. I think when we get to that level, then yeah, you'll put it on a pin and you'll be able to. But for now, yes, a lot of that data has to be transmitted back and forth. So it knows a lot, but if it sees something new, and it might be like, well, I don't know what this is, so I need to go talk to whatever it is I need to talk to. And then it says, oh, yeah, that is a dog. Okay. And it goes, oh, okay, I just added a dog to my vocabulary. That's a different kind of dog that I've never seen before. So then it trains the model while it's training itself.
Thank you for geeking up on me here. Because as you know, I called you a couple of weeks ago. I had this thought that I wanted to run by you, and thank you. You really set me up, and I couldn't think of any better person to call. Hey, what's going on with your company and Autotext Me? Is there anything you have that you're working on that is kind of new and different?
Yeah, and that's what, the 20 on 30, and I think mine was clocked at 41 minutes, I think is what I was like, oh, I appreciate Carm.
People got back to me that said that was so much fun listening to you and Chris, yeah.
It was fun. It was awesome. A lot of people are like, you're a believer, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a believer, right? I mean, I should probably say that often and more often than I do. I just don't want to rub it in other people's face. But I think a lot of people like that last thing when I said, yeah, lead like Jesus, because he's the ultimate leader. So yes, constantly working on things. And we talked about this in the 20, like what's technology and what are we working on? And we started working on this product called Baywatcher.io. And you're like, man, let's talk about it. So I'm like, heck yeah, let's talk about it. And all the things we're talking about, the machine learning, the AI, we've actually implemented in this product, right? And you're going to see this more and more as the days move forward. We're going to see more of this adoption of machine learning and AI as people figure it out, and as they can figure out different uses for it. So we created this program, Baywatcher.io, not out yet, Carm. So this is perfect time because I'm not trying to sell it right now. It's not even, you can't even buy it right now. The whole idea is I was approached back when I first got into auto repair, and I was told, Chris, you have a ceiling in your shop. I said, well, of course I do. Every shop has a ceiling unless everybody works outside. But they said the ceiling was you take your bays, you multiply that time your hours in the week, you multiply that time your hourly rate, and then you multiply that times the 52 weeks, and then you multiply that times 2 because that gives you your hour, your labor for the year. Multiply that 2, because for every hour of labor, you should have an hour of parts, or you should have the equivalent of the dollar amount in parts. Now, that might change in the future, and that's starting to change in some areas, but it was a pretty good formula. And I thought, well, that's amazing. And I said, and this is your ceiling, and you're not going to go over your ceiling. And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right. Of course, I started studying it, because when somebody puts something in my head, I gotta understand it, right? I need to know what this means. And, I asked, well, what are most shops run at? What's their efficiency? And, it was 30, 40%. I'm like, that just blew me away that 30, 40% of your time, your shop's making money in your bays, and 60, 70% of the time, your bays are not making you money. Now, you can hire more techs, but even your techs will start getting over each other, or they'll start getting in each other's ways, because you still only have one bay. And you can put 2 techs in a bay, but hey, if I need to pull this car, you need to pull this, you've got problems, right? So a lot of times shops have a bay per technician. But if you have, parts that you're waiting for and all, or you're waiting for a brake inspection, all these things that jam us up. So when that was planted in my seed, that seed in my head, Carm, I said, well, I want to prove this, right? I have to prove this to myself. And so I started a journey. Once you plant a seed in my head, unfortunately, it starts growing whether I want it to or not. Thank God I don't have any hair, so it allows.
It doesn't hold it back. See,
it doesn't hold it back. Yeah, and there's nothing to fight there for the idea to grow. So I looked at RFID. I looked at short range, because I'm like, you know what? Who does this? The tollway companies do this really well. They put this little sticker up in your windshield, and every time you drive through the tollway, they go boop. Hey, Carm, you just went through the tollway, and we're going to charge you 75 cents. I thought, that's it. That's what we need to do. We just need to make an oil change sticker with a little RFID in it, put it in the car. You put the readers up there, and every time Carm drives in the parking lot, every time he drives in the bay, I know he's in there. Well, that only tells you that you're in there. Doesn't necessarily tell me how long you've been there until I pop it on the way out. And then it's expensive, because those readers are expensive, and then the little RFID chips are expensive. And then you start realizing that people probably don't want a RFID chip, even though they're okay with the toll tag, but they'll probably be like, well, I don't want you knowing that where my car is, because even though they don't understand its short wave frequency. So once technology progressed, Carm, and things like, advanced license plate readers and object recognition, which is machine learning, the fact that there's now models out there of what is a car. And so these models know what a car is, and they know what a license plate is, and they know what numbers, letters and numbers are. So we've kind of taken a lot of this technology and put it together with cameras to now do real-time based statistics. And I can tell you, Carm, it's true. So in my shops, and my shops are profitable, and I think they're run very well, but we run, 40% of the time they're making money, and the rest of the time cars are sitting there not making money.
I can't even imagine that stat proved out in your own place.
Yes, because you take people's word for things sometimes, and I'm okay with it until you can prove it. And I see it. So now we have cameras in the bay sitting there real time, popping the license plate. It recognizes the car, and then it recognizes the license plate, and it sits there, and it goes, okay, Carm's car has been sitting here for 30 minutes. It's been sitting here for an hour. It's been sitting here for 2 hours. And Carm, it's amazing to me that and I've known this for a while too, because once I started kind of researching this, I'd ask my technicians and I'd ask my service writers, which I have great ones. How long has that car been sitting there? 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. Never 3 hours, never 4 hours, never 5 hours. Oh, that car's been sitting there for a couple of days, unless they're frustrated. Oh, that car's been there for a couple of days. Well, actually, it's only been there for 12 hours bay time, which is still a long time, right? But nobody really keeps that calculation in their head. And the only way you really can do bay management, true bay manage it, is by clicking a button. And Discount Tire does this really well. If you go into Discount Tire and Carm comes up to the counter and he says, hey, I'd like to get my tires. I'd like to get 4 new tires. And they go, okay, cool. Carm, well, here's your tire size, all this. Would you like to? Our wait right now is 33 minutes. And it's going to take a total of an hour and 5 minutes for you get this done. But 33 minutes and you'll be in the bay for another 30 minutes. And you're like, okay, well, that's cool. That's kind of weird. You're telling me that and I don't believe you, but okay. Sounds like an hour. I can deal with it. Sure enough, 30 hour and 3 minutes later, you're getting your car out, because what they're doing is as soon as you say yes, they're clicking a button. As soon as the car goes into the bay, they're clicking a button. As soon as the car goes out of the bay, they're clicking a button. And as soon as you pick up the car or you pay out, they're clicking a button. And they're doing one thing. They're just doing tires. So their model's fairly accurate when it comes to time in and time out and wait time. Unfortunately, in auto repair, if we're in general auto service or if you're in even Euro repair, you're doing all kinds of different repairs. You're doing a water pump, you're doing an oil change, you're doing a brake job, you're doing a ball joint, you're doing all these things are different and they're different times, right? So it's very hard to capture true essence of what your bays are actually calculated and performing to do.
A million things are going through my mind. I can't even imagine where the brainstorming ideas were coming from in order to do this. But you said something earlier about finding out that you're at 30 to 40% efficient, and you could just do that in math. You didn't have to prove anything out. The math. You're into math. You're into numbers. That would have been able to prove it to you all day long, where the guys were saying, "Oh, it's only been here a half hour." At the end of the day, at the end of the month, when the number of hours that you have, the number of hours you build, your math is going to be there. Why do we need something that proves the math?
I think that the problem lies in the fact that we get caught up in our day-to-day too quick, and then we lose sight of things that should be aware. So, for instance, that brake check that's free. We all do them. Is it really free? What is that brake check costing you, right? What is that pre-inspection costing you? What is that free customer that's coming in costing you? Do you really know the cost of that? That's intangible, Carm. And I don't know if some shops may be really good at tracking it. Others aren't. What about the hour diag that we're charging? Is it really an hour, right? Because we're charging it. And I don't know a lot of shops that'll be like, okay, I'm going to pay you an hour diag, Carm. But you did 4 hours, but I'm going to pay you for 4 hours, but I'm only clocked you for 1. So there's waste in a lot of these things that we do that don't necessarily calculate with the numbers. The numbers, I agree with you, they tell a lot of the truth, but this is true truth.
I'm getting a feel for where you're going with this. And let me ask a couple of questions that may be so elementary. I have a vehicle. It's in... I am billing the customer 2 hours. We're now into the 2 hour and 20 minute, but no matter what AI is looking at that vehicle and realizing it's taking up base space for 2 hours and 20 minutes and I billed it at 2, it could have been done. There's no other vehicle to come in, so I just let it sit in the bay. It's not hurting bay productivity unless there was supposed to be another vehicle that came in. So there's got to be some gray area here.
We actually presented this to a pretty big group because I like to present things and hey, let's see what sticks and what doesn't stick. And when I presented this, one of the trainers said, hey, can we discount when this happens? Because sometimes we're slow and we want the car to sit there and we purposely want it to sit there. The president stepped up and said, but why would we want to do that? Why would we want to lie to the truth? Right? If you know the truth is you're going to leave a car in there for 6 hours and you're very keen and aware that you want it there for 6 hours, then that is your right to leave it there for 6 hours. The problem is the car that's there for 6 hours that you only charged 1 hour and you don't know that it's been sitting there for 6 hours and it shouldn't be sitting there for 6 hours. And your guys are complaining about the fact that they don't have bay space and they don't have bay and they're mismanaging the time in the bays because they don't realize the importance of get that car checked out, get it looked over, and get it out. You can't leave it in there because now when the manager sees this alert that says, hey, this car's been in, work order said 2 hours, and now it's been in there for 3 hours, or it's been in there for 5 hours or 6 hours. Hey, you maybe need to go have a conversation, find out if there was a trouble, if there was a problem. If you don't know the information, then you need it. Now, I think a lot of shop owners, Carm, naturally they go bay to bay and they're very close to the action. But I think multi-shop owners, and I believe people who have multiple things to manage, they want to know the truth. Because a lot of times our people aren't going to tell us, they're going to tell us what we want to hear. And a lot of times that comes in a mistruth.
I got a comment on the president saying, why aren't we telling the truth? Marketing-wise, strategy-wise, I want people to drive by and see that we're a busy place, even though there's a car taking up space. And I want my competitors to come by and say, man, he's always full. But on the other hand, my think is, I get that part, but my other think is, if it was empty, what's my manager doing to get another vehicle in that bay? Has he done the marketing? Has he done texting? Has he sent emails? Has he called a customer that had deferred work? What is he doing so that bay gets full? To me, I love the strategy. Get the car out and sweat the emptiness.
Or the car's sitting there because you're waiting on parts and you have a problem with the part vendor. Once again, maybe you know this because you're in your shop every day and you're communicating, but maybe you're a remote owner. Maybe you're the guy who says, I want to be on the beach and I want to manage remotely. Well, you want to know all the things that are going on. Carm, you know me. I'm a numbers guy. I have lots of KPIs. I go meet with my managers, weekly. I meet with my team monthly. We go over all these red, green looking things. Still, I only know what they tell me. And when I'm there, I learn a lot of things, but I'm not there a lot. I'm actually not there at all. So I can see now in my bays in real time what's happening. Plus, now your people know at the counter, oh, hey, Gene's car's in bay 1. I didn't know that it was being pulled in because the technician didn't tell me that he was pulling it in because he didn't click a button yet, right? So there's other aspects of understanding for your people's sakes, just that sharing of knowledge and that transparency that I think is there or could be there.
No one has to keep an eye on it. You're just saying that the software is going to be intelligent enough to see, to learn, to know itself, and it's going to produce a statistic for you through some kind of artificial something, right?
Well, we built in alerts already. That's one of the first things we started building in because we're like, okay, this is cool, Chris. You've proved this model. Now you proved that shops are wasteful. Great. What do you do with it? The next thing is, how do you leverage the data, right? Every time we get data, I think more about just solving a problem, then everybody goes, well, where's your ROI, Chris? Where are you going to make money off this? I'm like, crap, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about creating cool stuff, but then the business side has to kick in. So it's alerts, right? That's where we started with alerts of setting ceilings on bay times. Maybe you have a oil change bay, and that's all you do is oil changes. And you want to make sure that those oil changes are done in under 45 minutes. Well, you can set a ceiling for bay 1, which is your oil change bay. And anytime that car sits there for more than 45 minutes, your shop gets a notification, says, hey, this car's been sitting here for over 45 minutes. Now, that's, once again, might be obvious to you, but might not be obvious to the manager who's having to go worry about the brake job and all the other technicians, and he's not really managing the oil change bay. So notifications.
It's a sentinel.
I like that. Yes.
Hey, this was a blast. Thank you. You really stretched my thinking, and that's what we usually do when we get together.
Absolutely, Carm. I always love it. And I always love talking about the future, and I hope that this industry continues to lean into the future. Carm, I think you've been instrumental in the change in this industry for leaning into the future. I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate the people you get on. And I appreciate having the opportunity to talk about things like this, because we know that now that this industry understands that we're a technology industry, that depending on how you look at it, it's either going to get better or it's going to get worse.
I can't wait to see the future unfold. I just don't want stodgy people, naysaying against it. And I just want us all to look back in 5 years and says, wow, how cool. We did all the right things. We're so excited. Ugh. Chris Cloutier, Golden Rule Auto Care, Dallas, Texas, and CEO of Autotex.me. Thanks for the Geek Talk, my friend.
Thank you, Carm.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.